Hey guys, it's Bruce. Welcome to Convocourses podcast. Today is just absolutely open topics. I'm doing nothing but taking you guys' feedback, your comments, your questions. Who am I? My name is Bruce. I've been doing cybersecurity for since 2000, year 2000, IT and cybersecurity, and mostly my specialty is governance, risk, and compliance. I've done mostly for the government, but I also can do it for, I've done it before for the medical industry, for manufacturing industries, and for financial sector. So if you're interested in getting into this field, if you're interested in learning from somebody who's actually doing it, I'm still doing it. Like I'm not retired, I'm still doing it. So I'll give you my honest opinion on which way to go, how to get there, what I feel about this field, all that kind of stuff. Hey, how you doing, William? I have no plans on what to talk about, so if you guys have any questions whatsoever, I'm open to them. I'm gonna start off by answering some questions that I got from or comments that I have from YouTube, and I'm gonna set that up real quick. Yeah, if you have questions about your resume or about IT in general, because I did that for a good portion of my career, just straight up IT, help desk and cybersecurity analyst work. I've done a little bit of that. All right, so let me see. I got some questions here. There's some conversations going back and forth on a few of my videos that did really well. But I want to answer specific questions about GRC stuff. Got some folks joining me on TikTok. Appreciate you guys. Today I'm gonna pay special close attention to you guys on TikTok and Instagram. Apparently, every now and then I get these questions on Instagram too, but I just haven't been checking. That one doesn't go to my feed immediately, so I gotta keep checking that one. So this time I'm gonna do my best to keep checking those questions too. All right, let me see. Let me see if I have any questions here on comments here on TikTok. I mean on YouTube. No questions there. Let me see. Alex said, "I appreciate the honesty coming from Ryan, saying in all reality, will not have engineers always keeping security in mind. At the end of the day, you'll wear many hats in your role and can't expect everyone to be security experts in every area." Yeah, it's getting to a point where it's just getting very complex, and so even me being in this field for 20 years, man, I don't know everything. You know, I'm barely scratching the surface on cloud. I I've been out of the Linux environment for so long that I just know I remember basic commands, but I couldn't like write scripts or anything for in it. Um, there's just so many things going on, and artificial intelligence, and there's just emerging technologies. Nobody knows everything, so it's the more complex this whole environment gets, the more you have to have multiple people and multiple subject matter experts to run a business or a mission. So we have to rely on one another. Okay, I got something from TikTok. Let me see here. Every now and then I get real good stuff from TikTok. Let me see. Jay says, "How can we stabilize the global economy through cybersecurity?" I don't think cybersecurity is a way to globalize to stabilize the entire global economy. I think that there's a lot of market forces in place that are designed, like governments, that are designed to disrupt each other's economies. I think that they I don't want to sound like come off as a conspiracy theorist, but I think that sometimes they'll do things to disrupt entire markets of other organizations. So cybersecurity is just one it's just the tip of the iceberg. It's like one aspect of a whole gigantic macroeconomic situation. Like we're just on the fringes, and well, that's one of the good things about it is that you don't have there is some pressure with cybersecurity, but it's only with what the scope of what you're doing. Even if you work for a gigantic Fortune 500, um, even if you work for the Nasdaq as an IT professional, right? With hundreds of millions or billions of dollars at stake, you're still a tiny fragment of the whole economic structure. So that's one of the great things about it is that you're only doing your part. I mean, even though you're in the organization and you're having to look at the big picture, that's still one part of the big picture. You know what I mean? So the scope is very important. Like don't when I'm doing cybersecurity for some organization and I'm going through vulnerabilities, I'm doing vulnerability management or something. I'm focused on what is the mission of this organization. I'm not focused on necessarily what is the impact of our IPO, right? If X, Y, and Z doesn't happen, I'm focused on how can how can I secure our environment with the current level of security posture that we have. I have to focus on that because if I start worrying about all this other stuff that I can't control, it just gets way too stressful. I'm making more stress for myself than is necessary. So that's just my 2 cents on it. And keep in mind, I'm just some freaking dude, man. I'm just a dude who works. I don't. I'm just. I'm just some guy. So I'm probably not the right. Talk to Ray Dalio or something. Talk to one of those guys could probably answer that question better. Um, Big Tony says, "Do you think AI is going to make things better or worse for cybersecurity?" I think it'll make it better, and the reason why I say that is because um, a lot of times in cybersecurity roles, what they'll do is they'll have us wear multiple hats because the companies, for whatever reason, either can't find people appropriate for a role or they just won't hire, conveniently won't hire other people, right? I don't know if they do that on purpose or what, but the last 7 jobs I've had, I'm wearing, literally wearing 4 or 5 different hats. I'm doing vulnerability management, I'm doing scan analysis, I'm writing documents, I'm doing system security, and it's not just one organization. It's been the last 7 organizations. And the more tools I have to do my job, the better. So AI will help me out a lot. If the more it's implemented in the environment, the more I'm like, yeah, this is cool. If they can implement a large language model in a security information event manager, if they can implement it in a network scanner, if they can implement it in a content management system, that would be great for me because that'll help me to come up with stuff faster and help me to do my job better. And on top of that, I think we're going to have to use it. I think we're going to have to use AI because the I think that we're going to get targeted with using AI. I think that attackers are going to target soft and hard targets using some sort of AI. They're not going to stop using AI. It's kind of like the argument for guns. Like people in the U.S., we have a huge gun problem here, but the problem is we can't get rid of them. It's over. Like you cannot. It's even if they banned it right now and say, okay, everybody give up your guns. Like, do you think criminals are going to give up their guns? They're not. They're not. Those laws will just be for law-abiding citizens, right? That's I'm just telling you, like logically, AI is not going anywhere. It's like guns. Like it's too late now. It's out. So everybody's going to use it, you know. So you can't if you ban it, it's still going to be used. Large language models are still going to be used. It's too late. Even if the US is like, oh, you know what, this is not the right thing to do. China, you think China's going to stop using AI? You think Russia's going to not use AI? You think these other organizations are not going to use it? Like we have to use it. It's too late. It's over. Like we have to use it and master it and get better at it. I think that right now we need it. Is I think we need to control it. I think we have to have safety features in it. But it's kind of like we know our neighbors are going to get the criminals and our neighbors and other people are going to get armed. So we don't want to bring a knife to a gunfight. Like we have to be ready. I'm not saying we should get AI and replace all our jobs and start using it for everything. Of course, we should have restraint, just like if you had a gun. Like you should lock it in a safe. You should go take safety lessons. You shouldn't wave it around. You shouldn't take it out unless you absolutely need. I was always taught don't point it at anything you don't intend to shoot. You know, point it down range. Like you need safe. Make sure the safety's on when you're handling it. Clear the barrel. Like there's certain safety features we'll have to have in AI. I'm not saying everybody should just do whatever on AI. We shouldn't have safety features on it. Absolutely, we should, but we're going to have to use it. And yes, I think it'll be better for us, especially cybersecurity people. We have to use it. We have to learn it as quickly and as fast as possible and as much as possible. That's just my 2 cents from what I've seen with everything. I just don't think it's going to go away. And William has a question. William, I'm not sure if I can answer this question for you without some research. So I think maybe I'll save this one. He said, do you keep up with any of the new CMMC stuff, cybersecurity maturity model certification to enforce CUI? Um, I've glanced at it. I know that they just updated. They're updating it to a new version. I believe that NIST 800.171, which I think are two different things. You got 800.171, and then you have CMMC. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's two different things that kind of do something similar, where they are securing organizations who are providing support for the Department of Defense. So the military industrial complex, basically, like the Lockheed Martins who have a satellite system that has to do some work for the FBI or whoever, right? I'm just coming up with stuff. They're civilian organizations who have to do work directly with the Department of Defense. So they have to go through something called the CMMC in order to secure um, this CUI or sensitive information. It's not necessarily classified information. It's just sensitive information that needs a little bit more protection. And so they go through this process where they have to secure it properly to have to handle government, the Department of Defense's information. I personally don't work in that area. I'm usually in the government. I'm usually working in their environments. I'm usually working on their systems. So I've glanced at it, but I couldn't, like, off the top of my head, tell you what's going on like I do in the NIST 800 or like I can the ISO 27001 or some of the other things. I'd have to like look at it and then it would jog my memory and but yeah, I've glanced at it. Okay, let me see. Jay says yes, it is, but many of these situations are solvable. Oh, wait. Maybe I missed something here. Situations are solvable. Won't they be more information and more perspectives on viable solutions with more ability to see and understand beyond? I believe you're expanding on the AI conversation. Let me see what other things we have here. GDPA says my biggest concern in handling my biggest concern is landing a help desk job with a CCNA cert. And what are some companies uh, looking for, looking to hire or offer higher roles? Um, GPDA. So let me just be absolutely real with you. So you're gonna have to have more than just a CCNA. CCNA is hard. It's a hard certification. It's a great certification. I actually should have one. It's one of the best certifications I've ever had. CISSP, Security Plus, CCNA, my three top certifications I've ever had. That has helped me out quite a bit. In that order, CCNA, I'll put it on that list. Reason why is because in the United States, it's highly marketable. A lot of organizations use Cisco products. The CCNA is certified Cisco network associate. I think that's what it is. So yeah, it's a great certification. But what organizations are really looking for is experience. They're wanting you to hit the ground running. Now, I'm not saying you can't get a job with just a CCNA, but I'm telling you, most organizations, especially ones who are going to have you handling important things like cybersecurity or their network infrastructure, they really need you to either be super good at following instructions and very flexible and know your stuff like right when you come in, so they can like mold you and allow you to be under someone else who knows what they're doing, or they're expecting you to have enough experience at two or three other organizations to come in and do what you need to do. I can show you how I would, if I were you, how I would look for these jobs. And I'm hoping that this is something that you have done yourself, but I'm just going to go ahead and show you what I'm going to do. So I'll walk you through it. And if you happen to be watching me on YouTube, you'll see me walk through this. So what I would do if I were you is, number one, you need to get your resume up. If you don't know how to write a resume, let me show you where you can, one of the best resources you can go to know what to put on your resume. First of all, you need something called an ATS style resume, okay? Um, very, very important to have an ATS style resume. The reason why is because most of these organizations, they are handling literally thousands and thousands of different applicants, and they need people. They whenever they are pulling in your resume, if it's not in a certain format, it's going to be difficult for them to process it and put it in their database. So ATS style data resume is a very simplified resume. Let me just show you what it looks like. And if you want an example of one looks like, you can go to convocourses.net, my site, and that'll give you downloadable examples that you can use. So first thing I'll do is show you like what the template looks like. It's very, very simple. It's not fancy. It doesn't look pretty. It's just straight to the point. See how these, what I'm doing is showing on the screen an example from LinkedIn, a LinkedIn article where they're showing you examples of what to do and what not to do on an ATS style resume. So the one on the left has a green check mark, and it's just first name, last name, contact information. It goes right into your experience, and it says experience on the top, and then goes into a chronological order of where you worked, and then it goes into education, doing something similar, of all the places you worked, and then it can go into other things like your skills and things like that. On the other side here, where they have this red X here, they have an example of somebody who have a more of a CV, a CV. In the U.S., these are not good in a lot of cases, because it has your picture here. It has like this weird formatting on the side. It looks prettier than the ATS style resume because it has this nice formatting where it has a summary here on the side and the skills on the side and then experience on the upper left and then education right. It looks pretty, but when you feed this into their database, in the company's database, or into your favorite job aggregator's database, it won't be able to pull all this information in. It'll get confused. So first, the thing you need to do first for the CCNA is get an ATS style resume. This goes for everyone, whether you're kind of trying to go into a GRC positions, a help desk position, what you name it, banking, healthcare. ATS style resume is the way to go, because these organizations, especially medium and large, are dealing with thousands of resumes. So the formatting needs to be correct. Okay. So now that you have that out of the way, what you need to do is do a search for, let's type in CCNA. All right, so I typed in CCNA, and let me just show you people. I'm on LinkedIn. I typed in CCNA in the search results, and I'm looking at people here. And what you'll notice is out of 6 million results, there's a top, I don't know, top 20. And you got to ask yourself, why are these guys the top 20? It's because of the way that they put their resume together. You'll notice most of them, they put CCNA right below their name. You have their name, and then right below here, they have a CCNA. They're saying, hey, I have a CCNA. And this is what you want to do. You want to copy how these professional guys have done it. So if I take one of these dudes right here, like this dude right here, let's say I looked at his resume. The next thing you want to do is look for people who actually put their whole resume, because a lot of people don't put their whole resume out there. I'm one of the exceptions. Some people do. This guy did not. So let's go to another one. You want to find somebody who put their whole resume to find their keywords, because CCNA isn't the only keyword you're going to want to put on there. You're going to want to put other keywords, and I just want to show you an example of a dude who has their keywords in there. So let's look at Gabriel's resume to see if he put his whole resume out there. Yeah, okay, so he's got more information on there. It looks like a summarized version, but we can still get some information off of here. So it says he was in the U.S. Army, he has network administrator, and then it explains what he's done. And you'll see some keywords in here, such as network administrator, cybersecurity specialist. These are keywords for these types of roles. And then in his previous job before that, he still has network administrator, help desk technician, active directory. So those are other keywords that you could put on your resume. Those are the types of things that organizations are looking for. Some exposure to that. Now let's look at this guy as a pure network engineer. This might give us a better insight into what to put on your resume. Yeah, here we go. So supports integration. He did in addition to Cisco, he did Fortinet. He did Palo Alto, SolarWinds. He had exposure to all those. If you have exposure to any of that stuff, you want to put that on your resume, on your ATS style resume. Once you have a solid resume, once you've copied the spirit of what other people are putting on their resume, which the next step is you want to put this on job aggregators. What I mean by that, you need to put it on Dice, on Monster, on LinkedIn. I would recommend the top 10 or 20 if you're really serious, at least top 10 job aggregators, and put and fill out the complete profile and upload your ATS style resume. Now, I want to warn you, the more you put out there, the more you will get contacted. So, you've been warned. But because you will get a ton of contacts. Your job after that is going to be to weed out the people you don't want, or the ones that are not legit. That'll be your job, because you're looking for an interview, but in truth, you're interviewing them. So I don't know what your experience is, but experience is gonna play a part in this. But your skills and your experience with hands-on doing network administrator work is what you want to focus on. And you said you want to get a help desk job. Yeah, you can do it. You can do it, especially with some background. I think that we're global, and we're all together more than we give credit for. Is GRC related to SOC? I'm a SOC consultant and kind of want to go into more internal technical role. SOC consultant, do you mean okay, so SOC has a couple of different meanings for me personally. You have SOC, which is a security operations center, and then you have SOC 2, which is a type of compliance. So here's SOC. Let me see if I can show you SOC 2. SOC 2 is I believe it's like a framework that is used to secure systems, similar to like an ISO 27001. Yeah, so SOC 2 is a voluntary compliance standard for security for service organizations. So is that what you mean as a consultant? I'm assuming that's what you mean. I'm assuming that you mean like SOC 2 consultant, and you're kind of wanting to do a more internal technical role, because sometimes those compliance guys don't get into the technical aspect, and it looks like you're a compliance guy. So actually, it's a great way to pivot. I mean, from what I do, which is not super technical, not hands-on. I'm not bragging about how much I know. I don't. There's a lot of stuff I haven't touched in years. And I'm not proud of that. It's just that's the nature of the last few jobs I've done. I just haven't been super hands-on with stuff. But what I will say is if I want to, I could totally transition into that kind of stuff. Because from policy work, from a SOC 2 consultant, from a cybersecurity consultant, or doing just pure policy officer, or risk management framework, or an ISO, information security officer, where I'm just doing POAMs and stuff, I could totally transition into an engineering role if I wanted to. I'd have to be technical, of course. I mean, I'd have to know the stuff that they needed at that organization. But I've been offered that opportunity to go into the more technical roles if I wanted to. So you, as a SOC 2 analyst, I'm thinking you're a SOC 2 consultant, because you said you're not you're trying to get in the technical role. So I'm assuming you're not technical, you're hands off like I am. Yeah, like you could. I would recommend you try to do it internally with whatever organization you're in, because normally they have some kind of engineering roles that you can do, and they already know your work, so they'd be willing to give you some on-the-job training and kind of hold your hand to learn something like a cybersecurity analyst. Some really good ones that lend themselves to a more technical route would be information security engineer, and those are the guys that are usually more hands-on and have to come up with technical solutions. So that's one that I can do as an off ramp, or you could do as an off ramp. Another one would be, let me see, you could do cybersecurity analyst work was a really good one. I transitioned to that one for a while, and surprisingly, I knew a lot more than I than I thought. But you will have to know some stuff. Like you will have to it like if you have no background in IT, then you're gonna have to start from there, right? So I did have, full disclosure, I did have a technical background before I went to cybersecurity analyst work. And as I've been offered these jobs as an information security engineer, it's taken into account that I did work on Seams and I did work on all these other, networking and stuff like that. So you will have to, at some point, you can transition, but you're gonna have to learn the fundamentals. If you don't know any, you will have to learn fundamentals. I would recommend you do a lateral change inside your organization. Let me see. Kevin Spears says, former network and system admin, degree in cybersecurity, having a hard time landing first job, 2023 graduate. Network admin. So Kevin, my resume looks good according to recruiters. Okay, what are they saying to you? What are they telling you? Like what's going on? Like normally, whenever I don't land a job, which still happens, they usually tell me why. They'll say something like, some of the common ones is like, well, you know, it looks like you're not a good fit for this position because we wanted somebody who was stronger on cloud. Or, this position we were looking for more of somebody with more of a network background because we need a lot of work on our X, Y, and Z system. They'll say stuff like that, or they'll say, actually we have another position for you like that and that, but we already have somebody for that one. But if it opens up, you would be a better fit for that one. But this one is specifically for vulnerability management. Are you interested in this? Like, is this? And I'll flat out tell them, no, that's not what I was looking for. I was looking for something like, I thought this job description here was more of this kind of role. So they'll usually tell me something. So Kevin, what I'm asking you is, what are they telling you when you're not landing these jobs? Like, are they telling you how many have you had a lot of interviews? Or are you not even getting that far? I can tell you this: if you're not even getting interviews, it's definitely your resume. It's either that or your experience. And 9 times out of 10, when people send me their resume, it's one of those things. It's either they just don't have experience and they're trying to get into these high level roles, but they don't have enough experience, and they should be shooting for like an entry level IT position is what they should be doing, right? As a stepping stone to that next level. Or their resume is not reflecting what they're trying to do. It's usually one of those two things. Um, Another one though is sometimes they're just not advertising. They're not putting them. They're not marketing themselves. They're not on Monster. They're not on Dice. They're not on. They're on one platform, and they're not applying for enough jobs. Like you got to be aggressive with it. You got to be super aggressive with it. So um, I'd have to know more about your background to give you better advice. What was the format again? The format of resumes that you need to use is called ATS, Alpha Tango Sierra, and it stands for Application Tracking Software. Application Tracking Software. I believe that's, yeah, Application Tracking Software, and it's a it's a format that allows organizations to pull in your resume and parse it prop quickly and correctly. So it'll take, if you labeled it all correctly, if you use the ATS style resume, it has a place where it'll, the first one is going to be your name. The second line, it knows, okay, this is contact information. It knows that to look for your experience, it's going to look for either work experience, experience, or something like that. You can't put no random stuff in there. You can't be something off brand, like sometimes people leave that part blank and just start listing their experience, or they have some fancy font that says work experience but it's in it's in some weird font that's like an image or something. It looks nice but it's not in text. So um, it's looking for specific words. It's looking for a specific format. It's looking for chronological order. So when it pulls in your resume, it knows, okay, I see work experience. And then it says, okay, what are the jobs? Okay, they said that their work title is this. They worked here. Here was the location. Here's what they did. It takes that, puts it in the database, goes to the next one. And then education, what's their education? That system will take their education, say, okay, what school did they go to? Where was it located? When did they graduate? What was the name of the degree? All that needs to be properly packaged on your resume. And the ATS style resume walks you through how to do that. Like I said, if you want to see it in action, you can check out my resume. It's been working for me. It's a shitty resume, man. The formatting doesn't look pretty, but the keywords is chef's kiss, because I've been getting jobs back to back on on that shitty resume, an ATS style blank ass resume. I mean, not blank ass resume, but it doesn't have, it's not pretty. It's just straight to the point. Okay. Um, I'm taking my Security Plus in 2 weeks. Any advice? Um, Go through as many practice questions as you can. For me, that's what helped. Use So that's one thing. Go through as many questions as you can. It's like make your brain into like tired of it, like to where the point where your mind just knows the algorithm of how the questions are going to be formed. So there's a ton of free questions that you can get online or from books. The back of the books, like get whenever you buy the Security Plus books, go through, make sure they have questions in the back. And then another place you can go to is Chat GPT or Claude 3 or one of these AI large language models. Those are really good for churning out questions. Like you can literally say, hey, give me a Security Plus 101 or 102 or 106 questions. You can actually even feed it all the information, especially if you have raw information, raw data. You can feed it all the raw data from a Security Plus book that you found online. You can upload the entire book and say, give me questions based off this book, and it'll come up with a bunch. You can ask it, I want 10 multiple choice questions, make it timed, and don't go to make it interactive. Force me to answer the question before you go to the next question. You can do that with large language models. It's crazy. It's crazy. So that's my advice to you. Another thing is everybody has a different style of learning. Like mine is definitely visual and writing tactile. For whatever reason, if I write something down, it just clicks for me. If I listen to something, I don't know. It might as well just go in one ear and out the other. I can listen to something over and over again, and my brain just doesn't retain it as quickly as if I wrote it down or if I seen like a graph that just breaks it down quickly. Learn your learning style. Realize what your learning style is, and then focus, lean in on that. But don't exempt all the other learning styles. Use all of them at your disposal. Watch videos, listen to podcasts about Security Plus. Listen, watch, uh, and also write it down. Use all of them because you never know which styles is gonna click in your mind and make you learn and pick up that information. Are websites like TryHackMe and HackTheBox good for learning? Absolutely, yeah. Those are, especially if you're a beginner. But it actually goes from beginner to intermediate to expert level. They have different levels inside of those courses, which is why I try to partner with them so I could offer you guys like a free, a discount code because I thought it was very awesome. I've used TryHackMe before, and I was like, damn, this is really cool. I really like it, especially if you're trying to do pen testing work. It's really awesome if you're trying to do pen testing work. So it's great to start with, I think, and actually great to like gradually learn higher and higher skill sets. Another one you might want to check out is offensive security. If you're trying to do like if you're serious about pen testing, then at some point you're gonna have to go to offensive security. Um, who are the guys who created Kali Linux? So that's a good one to check out too. That you can download for free. Well, I don't know, maybe it's different now. I've been doing this so long. I remember when they called it Backtrack, and then Backtrack turned to Kali Linux, turned to I don't know, I haven't even touched it in about a year, so I don't. Anyway, they used to offensive security. You go there, you're looking for something called Kali Linux. They'll allow you to download their operating system for free if it is still free, and then you can actually mess around with it on your own and learn a bunch of stuff about hacking and pen testing stuff. Are there any free certifications online? Yeah, there's quite a few. There's either free or very very discounted certifications. The good certifications are you're gonna have to pay for those. Um, free. Some of the vendor certifications are free. Help me out here, guys. I know there's some IT guys who know some free certifications. Okay, the question is this for all you IT guys: what are the free certifications out there online? I know there's a few. I know that there's off the top of my head. Oh man, free certifications. Vendor level certifications are free sometimes. I think Google has some free certifications. I think Google has some free certifications. Um, I know that AWS is very very cheap. It's like $100. Um, you can just take the test. I think it's like $100. Google Cyber Cert. Okay, here you go, William. Thank you for that. It says Google Cyber Cert is free if you complete the training in a certain time frame. Okay, there. Thanks, William. Yeah, there's some other ones that are free, but they're usually really entry level. Like they're really, really entry level type certifications that are not super marketable. Those are the ones that are going to be free. I'm not saying that they're useless. I'm not saying that at all. But it's really good if you're a brand new beginner and you really need to learn some product or some skill set or whatever. Then yeah, it's worth your time to like learn as you go and then build up from there. Don't stop there. Like go get that one and then keep leveling up till you get to the entry level, the real entry level certs like an A plus cert. And this is not. I'm not talking about if you're already in help desk, you're already in this field, you don't need to take the A plus, okay? But but if you're brand new to this and you've never had any certs before, you don't know if you want to even spend money, you don't know, then yeah, you can start with those free certs or mess around with some of those. I think CompTIA has one called ITF. I wouldn't waste your time on it if you're already in IT. But if you don't know anything at all and you just want to try this out, then yeah, go ahead and try it out. There's CompTIA ITF. There's Google cybersecurity certification just to kind of mess around with it. Um, like I said, they're not marketable. They're entry, not even entry level. They're like before entry level. Some of them. I don't know about the Google cybersecurity certification. Um, Going into cyber through the military. That's the route I took. So it was a good choice for me. I mean, it changed my life. My my family has been able to eat off of that for I was able to build something amazing off of that. So it completely changed my life. There's no telling where I would have been had I not gone to the military. I mean, I was working. Granted, I wasn't running the streets or anything, but I was working a job and going to school at the same time. And my family life wasn't the best at that time. So it changed my life. It allowed me to travel the world. It allowed me to get 3 or 4 certifications before I even got out. It allowed me to get a bachelor's and an associate's degree. And I learned leadership skills. I learned, in a lot of ways, it beat the shit out of me and humbled me. It forced me to, for lack of a better word, man up, and it forced me to be successful and show that, look, there is no other way, and you can fail as many times as you want, but you got to keep getting back up. That's one of the main things I got from the military. Was it all good? No, it wasn't. There was all kinds of bullshit in the military. That's why I got out. It was all kind of crazy shit going on in the military. But I gotta say, like, it was, for me, it was a great move. Absolutely changed my life. And if I had to do it over again, I would. I would have done maybe a couple things different, but I still would have went into the military, given my situation. Um, Getting a bachelor's degree in cyber after AIT, man, that's all. That's the direction you want to go. Are you going to become an officer or anything? You had to go to boot camp. Yeah, I had to go to. I was in boot camp. I was in the Air Force, so it's not as hardcore as like the Army or the Marines, but um, it's for a civilian. It's tough. Not everybody makes it through it because you have to be humble. You have to be willing to learn. You got to submit yourself to a cause, and that cause sometimes you might not even agree with some of the things, but it's like that's the point is to put your ego aside and serve something that is larger than yourself, and that level of discipline that it gives you is something you could take into the rest of your life and the rest of your world, rest of the world. Um, Let me see. You got some other stuff. What certs do you have or recommend? Certs that I have the CISSP. I have something called the CGRC, formerly known as the CAP from ISC2 squared. I have some vendor level certifications like Qualys and Future Recorded Future for cyber threat intelligence. I've got Security Plus, mainly because I used to teach it. I've got I had the original A plus, so that one never expires. But for what it's worth, I mean that was one of my first certifications. CCNA, I had that, and that expired. No longer have that, or have the skill set for that anymore. I probably have more that have expired than I have that are than most people will ever have. um, yeah, but right now the most active ones, CISSP and then CGRC. Those are the ones I use, that are active that I can point to and say, yeah, this is really relevant to what I do now. But some of them have expired, or I don't know that information anymore. I just haven't touched that system in a while, or whatever. So, which ones do I recommend for you? Which ones do I recommend for you? It depends on where you're at. So if you're a beginner, like if you know, let's start from the beginning. If you know absolutely nothing, like nothing, you're coming from you were a school teacher, now you're trying to come into IT. You're 34 years old. You were a janitor, and you did something completely different than IT. Okay, you don't know nothing about IT. You're not super IT savvy. You're not one of these nerds who are building computers. You don't know shit. Then go for the CompTIA A plus, because you can learn all the common body of knowledge from there. Um, Another one that you can do is CompTIA ITF if you really really don't know anything, and really it's to get to see if you even want to do this industry. So those are like entry level certifications. Another one people throw around is Google Support IT certification. Um, which these are all very cheap too. They're like $100 certifications. I think the CompTIA is like $200 or something. If you're serious, then do that one because that one's actually marketable. You could actually use that one once you're done with it. And the best thing above that would be to go to school if you have the time, money, resources to go to school for an associate's degree in IT or a bachelor's degree. That would be the best, most ideal situation. You know, if you're not one of these people who at age 18 could write their own program and put it out there on Apple and on Google Play or something, and already know building your own computers and stuff like that. If that's you, if you're a geek and a nerd and that's all you do, you probably don't even need the CompTIA A plus. You probably could just go ahead and put a resume together and apply for some jobs. You could probably just go straight for something called Security Plus, which is highly marketable. And once people see that on your resume, plus all your skills of building computers, of writing your own code, um, especially if you have like a portfolio, you write code and you have a portfolio on GitHub or something like that, you're that deep into it, you got to put something together. And now you want to start thinking about, okay, what does my resume need to look like? How do I have where do I post this resume? How do I market myself? And that's you. You want to do an ATS style resume. You want to put all the appropriate keywords and stuff on that ATS style resume with all your skills and all your experience and links to your portfolio and that kind of stuff. And then you want to post it everywhere and be very, very aggressive with it. And you will find something. It might not be the first thing. Like it's not going to be great. The first job, IT job, is not going to be awesome. It's not going to be great. It's not going to pay a lot, but it's just a stepping stone because experience is what you really are aiming for. All right. So at that point, you probably want to get a Security Plus. Now, let's say you're already on the help desk. You've been doing this for like a year or two. Now you don't have certs. You're trying to level up though. Security Plus. Security Plus. Don't waste your time with the A plus certificate. You don't need it. You want to go straight for a Security Plus. Get that in your belt. Entry level. If you don't have one already, Security Plus. It's very marketable. People are looking for it. If especially if you have experience to back it up, like man, it's gonna change your life. Now let's say you already have a Security Plus. Bruce, I already have a Security Plus. I've been help desk for 3-4 years. I'm a network security engineer. I'm trying to level up. Now you want to start thinking about a professional level certification, a CISSP, a CCNP, a CCNA, something like that. It's going to be a much harder certification, but those ones are where you're talking about the six-figure type area. So it depends. The certification really depends on what field you're in because there's a different certification for pen testers, people who like are ethical hackers. There's a different one for network engineers, people putting networks together and maintaining networks is a different one for them. There's different ones for firewall guys. There's different ones for GRC people. There's different certifications for different aspects of cybersecurity. So it really would depend on where you're trying to go with it. All right, let me see here. Just doing basic and AIT for now until maybe 2 or 3 years down the road. All right, let me see here. Got some stuff on. If you guys are just joining me, I'm just open topics talking about GRC cybersecurity work. This is for people who are pretty serious about this industry, trying to get in, trying to level up, trying to do your thing. You've got an inside guy. Like I've been doing this for a long time. I'm going to tell you straight up. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm going to tell you exactly what's going on because I want you. My goal is to make other people be successful, and if I can do that, I'll feel good about having passed it on. Somebody passed amazing knowledge on to me. There's several people who came into my life, changed my life, mentors, people who put me under their wing and helped me. And my life is great, man. I don't have to worry about getting jobs. If there's a recession, worst case scenario, I could go to another country and work remotely. I mean, I want that for I want other Americans, I want other people around the world to experience this kind of lifestyle where you don't have to worry about you don't have to worry about a job. You have a job, you have money. Um, that's not something you have to stress about. I want that same thing for you. Why? Look at the situation of humanity. Look what's going on here, man. Like look honestly at what's happening, how much wealth we have as a species, how much resources we can amass. We've created all these things that we've come up with, and there's still people living on the streets. I mean, just to me, it doesn't make any sense. So as many people as I can help who are willing to help themselves, I realize it's a bigger problem than just giving somebody getting a certification or even the experience or whatever. Some people have problems that are not going to be solved on a podcast. You know what I mean? They're not gonna, but I'm gonna do the best that I can. If I can leave this world having done something for someone, and the best that I can do, then I will rest easy. Larry says, "Hey Bruce, I think you mentioned last week my job is starting to embrace GRC in the government. Um, I have I have your cyber programs and policy book. Thank you for purchasing that. I appreciate you. But which of your books do you suggest for starting out in GRC? Um, Starting out in GRC, I'm actually working on I'm working on one right now for starting out in GRC. But there's a couple that I would highly recommend, especially if you're a NIST 800. If you're doing the NIST 800 risk management framework, then let me recommend a couple to you. And thanks for that $20, by the way, Larry. I appreciate. I saw that. So I've got one out on Amazon or on my site. You can go to convocourses.com, convocourses.net to get all kinds of discounts and stuff. Um, but if you go to Amazon, let me show my screen real quick. So I'm on Amazon right now, and I just typed in RMF, and you'll see a bunch of my books. So these are focused on risk management framework, NIST 837, NIST 853, and NIST 853A. That's what these three books are right here. This first one this one's very entry level. It's very like it's breaking down what you have to do with the NIST 800. NIST 800, for those who don't know, is a framework, a GRC framework for the federal government. It's what all federal government use. They might have a different name for it. They might have different terminology. DOD uses it. Department of Homeland Security uses it. Um, I want to even say some of the three-letter agencies use it, some variant of it. Um, I don't know. FDA uses it, FAA, all of them use this. They might have slightly different variations on how they name it, but it's NIST 800. If you know NIST 837, you'll understand their process at a fundamental level. So if you're an entry level person in the government, now keep in mind, GRC is huge. So GRC includes all, like in GRC, listen, GRC doesn't just look like NIST 800. Retail has their own GRC. It's called PCI DSS. So that is not included in this book. This book specifically is for government workers who are doing risk management framework, GRC for the government. So if you're in, actually some state governments use it and some companies do use NIST 800 too, but that's what this is. My focus is on helping out people who are, oh shit, who are, I don't know if you guys saw that. uh, People who like myself who started in this and kind of thrown into this in this field and have to know this stuff and are doing the best that they can. So that's who it's focused on. Now I do have another one for people who are using NIST CSF, but it's for right now. It's NIST CSF version 1. I've got a version 2 that I'm still working on. You can get all this for free, by the way. Okay, the first place you should go to is the actual government websites. All right, you can go to NIST, NIST.gov, NIST has a website for free where you can get all this resources back to. That's the very first place you can go. You should go. Like if you're going for nist.gov, if you're going PCI DSS, PCI DSS, listen, it's free. You can actually go and download it and learn it and get all the information. Even NIST CSF, all that stuff. I wrote a book on it, but NIST CSF, you can get all this stuff for free. All of it's out there for free. The problem is when you start reading it, it doesn't have any context. It'll start, and then the way they write it, it sounds like it's coming from academia. It sounds like you're reading a textbook. So the way that I write it is in layman's terms. Just like I'm talking to you right now, I'm explaining like here's what this is, and here's an example of where you would use this. Here's what this is, and here's an example of what you would do. Here's what I did before with this. And you can contact me. Once you have an understanding, especially if you bought my course, you can just call me directly. You can message me directly and I'll talk to you about a specific situation that I will not broadcast, especially if if there's something that we can't really put publicly out there. So that's why I wrote the book, is because I started, nobody helped me. That all these resources are free. You go out there and especially if you're reading like a regulation like FSMA, you're reading it and basically it was written by legislators for legislators. And it's just not helpful if you're trying to do a practical job. If you actually are trying to secure a system and you actually have stuff to do, the way they write it is just like you have to interpret it. And then after you interpret it, you're like, okay, how do I apply this shit? How does this even remotely make any sense to the environment we have? Well, how does this work? And so I wrote the books in order to fix that issue, because that was one of my main problems with those books, is that, or those documents, is that I didn't understand what they were saying. Sometimes I have to read it several times to even get anything out of it, and even then I'm like, it was still subject to interpretation because some people's interpretation was different than mine. So at the very least, when you get my book, you'll get some idea of a guy who's doing this, has been doing this for many years, interpreting it and saying, hey, here's what we did here. Here's what we did in this situation. Here's when I was in an assessment. Here's what happened. Things like that. And that's why I wrote those books. Larry said, hey, Bruce, I think you mentioned this last. Okay, I already answered that one. Yeah, so those the ones I would recommend that you would buy, Larry, or whoever else is interested, would be the NIST 800 books, depending on where you are, either all three of them or just the first and second book. The third one's for assessments. And then the NIST CSF, if you're using that in your environment, it is version 1, but if your organization is still on NIST CSF version 1, CSF means Cybersecurity Framework, then you could use that book, which is also explaining and breaking everything down like they don't do on the actual site. And I also have ISO 27001. That's an international standard. And again, the ISO 27001 is like a 20-page document that costs like $160. I break it down. I'm charging you about $30, and mine's about 150 pages, and I'm breaking it down in terms that you can understand, like and giving you examples and stuff like that. So once again, that's how I write the books, where it's understandable. It's using practical language, and it's not written by legislators. It's not written by academia. It's not written so I sound smarter. It's written so you understand it. And that's one of my main issues with some of the books. I've had to read many of these fucking books, and sometimes I'm like, get to the point, like, what? I don't need this part, and then I have to skip, go around, and I reread it, try to understand it. I just don't like the way they write some of those books. And there's not a lot of books for us, for people who do this work. There's just not a lot of books. You can find books on how to understand Linux, or how to write code, or but there's not a lot of GRC books. Not a lot of good ones. And I think the reason why is because people think, oh, well, why would I write that book? It's already out there for free on the internet. It's like, when you read it, then you'll understand why I wrote the book. When you read FSMA, go ahead, go read FSMA. Go read FSMA 2014, and then you come back and tell me what you think. It's free. You can go out there right now. Tell me what you think about FSMA. I read it. It sucks. Deuteronomy makes more sense than FSMA. Can you recommend a roadmap for someone trying to get into GRC? Currently, year 2 in tech support. Yes. So if you're in tech support or help desk or something like that, and you're trying to level up to get into a governance, risk, and compliance um, role, first of all, understand that there's many types of GRC roles, and it depends on the industry you're in. The credit, if you're in retail, PCI DSS is going to be where you're going to focus on. It's going to focus on credit card protecting credit card information. If you're in the healthcare industry, it's going to be HIPAA. In the U.S., it's HIPAA. So HIPAA focuses on protecting patient's privacy. And then you've got industries such as the one I'm in, the government. Government has the NIST 800 and the NIST CSF is what they use mostly. And it's very, very robust, lots of control families. My point is there's different frameworks that you might have to focus on depending on whatever industry you're in. The ones that, like, let's say you don't know which industry you want to go into. What I would recommend is to focus on the ISO 27001 and the NIST CSF and NIST 800. The reason why I mentioned those three is because if you put that on your, if you know that stuff and you put it on your resume, you will be contacted by GRC people. Now, while you're a help desk person, you're doing technical support, you should understand that you're actually probably, in all likelihood, already doing some kind of security. And so, what do I mean by that? So, GRC focuses on being in compliance with a certain standard, with a certain regulation. It also is making sure that there's documentation that explains the security of your organization. It's also implementing security features in an organization. It's also doing assessments. GRC is a very broad field. There's a very good chance that you've already done something of one or many things of what I just mentioned. Off the top of my head, one that I'm sure that you've messed with already is updating patches on your workstation. Another one would be applying security features on your workstation. Like if you had to turn on encryption, or you had to read the logs or turn the logs on, or those are basic things. I mentioned those a lot. Those are basic things that normally, if you're help desk, you're going to at some point have to touch those things. Updating virus signatures is another very, those things are security features you already are familiar with, but they need to be on your resume. Now, here's another one that they don't talk to. Nobody mentions this, but one of the main things you do as a GRC is communication. You write policies. You might review policies. You write SOPs. You review SOPs, standard operating procedures. Maybe your organization don't call it SOPs. You guys might call it a work instruction. You might call it a procedure. You might call it a process. Whatever the document is called, you probably have worked on one or have read one or reviewed one, and you know what I'm talking about. GRC people, governance, risk, and compliance people, we're part of the core of people who are actually writing and maintaining that document. So if you have done that, you need to articulate that on your resume. You need to put it on the resume. A lot of times when I'm getting all these resumes, people don't put that on the resume. The writing is very, very important. If you've ever written a policy or updated a policy, you need to explain that you've done that before, because that's the kind of stuff they're looking for. They're looking for GRC. You can do this right now. If you're in this technical position, you're probably already doing it, but you haven't put it in a resume. Applying security features, applying patches like vulnerability, like getting rid of vulnerabilities on a system, doing things like helping to write policies, helping to train other people, other coworkers even. That's a part of GRC. If you've ever been a part of or have done any kind of assessment whatsoever, that's the R in GRC, the risk, because part of managing the risk is identifying what you have in your environment and then identifying the vulnerabilities in that environment. So those are that's part of the R. Like you got G, governance, you got the R, the risk, and the compliance. It's a huge field. You've done some of these things, but you got to put it on your resume. So right now, that's something that you can do. That you probably already said, oh yeah, I've created accounts. I've created 400 accounts in this environment, but you didn't explain that things like how you were a part of the team that did the identification and authentication. But there's certain keywords that they're looking for. You're doing it, but you're not putting the proper keywords on your resume. That's what I'm getting at. Okay, let me see here. Got more. Oh man, what is going on here? TikTok. All right, I'm trying to like scroll through, but it's not. Okay, there we go. Is SOC analyst the same as a security analyst? I would say, in my experience, it has been the same, a similar role. They have different levels of analysts, but now it depends on what type of analyst because you have threat. You could probably have a security threat intelligence analyst. You might have a different kind of security analyst, but normally when they say security analyst, they're usually talking about a SOC analyst or somebody. They're doing the same work. So here's what they do. I was a cybersecurity analyst for about a year or two, and what we did was, first of all, we had different levels. We had entry level dudes who were just learning everything from scratch, and so usually they have like a mentor or somebody who's like looking over their shoulder, walking them through how to do stuff and all that. Then you had a person who was like had been doing it for like 4 or 5 years, and that person kind of was like they usually had a SANS GCIA or a CISSP, or they just knew what they were doing. And they would kind of guide all the junior level people who were getting on the job training. And then you had different branches. You had people who were engineering and fixing the products that we were using. They were fixing the IPSs. They were making sure that those had signatures in there. They were updated properly. They were making sure everything was working properly. So those guys were more like engineers. They weren't really analysts, but they had to know a little bit of analyst work. Then you had forensics guys, and forensics guys was kind of like they kind of sat off to the side or in their own closet. They're like separate because they would have to deep dive into like one thing. They would get one incident and then they would just do nothing but that one or two incidents. We were dealing with thousands, millions of different lines of code on a screen, and a lot of times what we'd be doing is sitting in a chair. We'd be doing shift work. You had a day shift, a mid shift, and a night shift, and a swing shift, a day shift, a swing shift, and like a mid shift. And we were working 12-hour shifts, and we would take one day shift's gone. Okay, here comes swing shift. Swing shift gone. It was 24-hour coverage. We are all doing what's called continuous monitoring. So that is what I know of as a SOC analyst. And we were constantly looking at all the logs going through the environment, all the logs. So it was thousands, especially we were in a large environment. So it was hundreds of thousands of lines of code, not code, but lines of logs coming through from all over, from routers, from switches to workstations, to servers and everything, right? That we're looking through. And we had like different tools to help us to sort through those things or filter those things. So to look for anomalies and security incidents. And so it was a whole team of people. And what we called it was a cybersecurity analyst. But I've also heard it called a security operations center analyst. And then also we had among us digital forensics guys. Um, other There's other analysts though, is what I want to make sure that you're not like putting, because there is different analysts. Like I would say cyber threat intelligence analysts are kind of different. Um, and then I would say what other analysts? Intelligence analysts is kind of, that's different. That's like a different thing. They might mess around with security incidents, but for the most part, they're doing something different than what we're doing. So there's different types of analysts But if you're talking about cybersecurity analyst and a SOC analyst, it usually this is the same thing. Hope that answers your question. Let me see. Hi, no cybersecurity background, but enrolled in cybersecurity in Google cybersecurity course and start graduate school at UMGC in August. And you said also trying to study for my SEO plus. Is that what you said? SEC plus? Oh, security plus 601. Sorry. Exam before it expires. Okay, so if you're going to school, this is what I tell all students: is to make sure you do as much work and hands-on as possible while you're in school. Don't wait till you get that piece of paper. Try to become a working student if you can. Try to do internships and take advantage of any kind of internships or apprenticeships while you're a student. Do hands-on. If they don't have any of that, join clubs if they have them. Offer your assistance at the school. Be a freelancer, fix other people's computers while you're in school. Do hands-on, create your own lab in your dorm or at your home. If you're doing school from home, set up a lab in your house. Get as much hands-on experience as possible, because when you get out into the world, they're really looking for experience. They're not looking for a piece of paper. They're looking for experience. The piece of paper helps you be competitive against the guys who are also watching me and me. Like it's going to allow you to be competitive. Now, don't get it twisted. Like, they do have check boxes, meaning companies, especially the ones who have government contracts, they usually have check boxes. They'll have like, okay, we need somebody with at least a security plus. We need people who at least have a bachelor's degree, an associate degree, whatever. They at least have to have 3-4 years. But if they don't have 3 years, they should have at least a bachelor's degree in 1 year. Or if they have they'll have a checklist that they're going down. So that's why you want to get those certifications and stuff. That's making you more competitive, and honestly, it's opening up more doors for you. It's giving you more opportunity to have as many of those documents as you can. That's the game we're playing here. But the experience and the skills is very important. When you get in the interview, I was talking to Chris at TechWoke, and he brought up something really. He was spot on with this one. When you get in the interview, they're not normally asking you about your certifications. They're not asking you about your degree. They're not asking you about what school you went to. They don't give a shit. They'll say, "Oh, you got a piece of paper? Okay, great. What can you do? So what did you do in this situation? What did you do in this situation? What would you do in this situation?" They're asking what you do and what you've done. And I asked that as long as you have a degree from an accredited college, if that was one of the requirements, and that's it. They're not saying, "Oh, this guy went to Harvard and this guy went to University of Phoenix." They don't give a shit. I mean, unless you work at Harvard or one of these, I'm sure like the big 3 financial companies or big 5, whatever the fuck they're called, those guys probably care about it. But most organizations don't care, man. They just want somebody to do the work. Get as much experience as possible. Experience is king. Experience is what you want. Okay, let me see here. Thanks for watching, guys. I really appreciate it. I got about 20 people watching me on TikTok and about 11 people watching me on YouTube and Facebook and stuff. So I appreciate that. Let me see. Instagram. Somebody's asking me a question here. Do you offer one-on-one training? No, not at this time. I don't have time for it. My job is kicking my ass right now. I don't have extra time. Even on the weekends, I don't have extra time. When I'm in between jobs or something like that, or if I have a job that's a little bit more calm, I've offered it in the past, but right now I don't. Now, if you sign up, if you do take one of the courses, if you ask me questions directly, I can answer questions. But I have to limit how many people I have one-on-one interactions with, because I just, I have a family life, man. I've got stuff going on here, I got local business stuff I do, and then I got my job is going through like an assessment and shit. So I don't have time to do one-on-ones, unfortunately. Let me see here. Just came upon this thing called policy as code. Policy as code? Can you speak on policy as code and how that moved down the pipeline from departments? So this just got brought up in one of the meetings we had where I work. Policy as code, and from what my understanding, let me think about this damn meeting that I halfway paid attention to. I was like doing some other work, man, while they're talking about policy as code that they're implementing in 2 years or whatever. And what they were doing was, oh man, how can I explain? How can I explain it? And I don't even know if I explain it. I had a meeting, and they were explaining how they have a system like it wasn't a database necessarily, but we were supposed to. I can't explain it. It was, we had to put data for specific systems into some system, but they wanted us to put it in a certain format, because if we put the data in this system as with a specific format, it would allow this system to put it to keep everything in line. Man, let me let me see if I could bring up a specific thing about it. We had to do some kind of JSON code, and the thing is, it's not on my system, so I didn't care. And I'm like, I got enough stuff to do, man. So I wasn't really paying that much. The policy as code, a strategy that uses code to define and manage security rules, best practices, and compliance standards. There you go. That explains it. So I'm trying to give you a specific example of how this works, because they're explaining it in this one sentence. Policy as code is a strategy that uses code to define and manage security rules, best practices, and policy standards. And then the situation that we had at this organization that I work for, we had to, there's a certain feature in the operating systems that they needed to take account of. And so what they wanted us to do, the GRC people or anybody touching these systems, to do, mostly GRC officers to do, is when we got this information, we're supposed to upload it into some system. And this system, because it's in a specific format, it was a JSON format, we give it to them, the system automatically puts it in this format and puts it and manages all effectively. That would allow management to run numbers against what we're doing on our systems. And another good example of policy as code would be a tool like Archer. There's tools like Archer, and these GRC platforms are getting more complicated to where they're able to manage vulnerabilities. For example, you might have an environment with thousands of vulnerabilities, right? Well, what if you had a system like Archer or something like that will not only will it collect it'll pull all the scans in and know all the vulnerabilities for all the systems, right? But then it could also apply security features. It could work with another system, like let's say you had man, a scanner tool 101 that works with vulnerability manager 101 that works with this content manager, and all those systems pull all the information in one place. And these 3 or 4 systems are able to track all the systems automatically because it pulls it from the scan information, apply patches where it needs to be, and then also lock all the systems down. And all of that is done. It's all this stuff that you have in your security policy is being done by these 3 or 4 systems. That's policy as code. Like and that's an example. The system itself has the policy built in, and it's conducting the strategies that you're putting in place. And maybe this is an oversimplification, but that's my understanding of policy as code. But we specifically had a meeting about this like a couple weeks ago, where they wanted us to add some extra, literally put some kind of code in this system, and then it would help our decision makers to manage the systems more effectively. To not only manage them, like take it to account how many numbers that they had and what vulnerabilities that they had, and then figure out what the risk levels were based off of this extra information that we'd be putting into the system. I don't know what I'm talking about. I don't have a lot of exposure to it, but that's the best I can do. Let me see. Does anyone need a certification to start applying for GRC positions? I would say a better place to start for GRC would be an IT help desk. Like if you're on the help desk or some kind of technical support team, it really lends itself to GRC. I would say if you are working on a bachelor's or a master's degree in information technology or cybersecurity, that's also a great off-ramp into a GRC position. And the reason why I say that is because with GRC, you're having to know several things. You just have to have an understanding of several things, not just like basic IT stuff, but you need to understand how the organization works. Because you're helping management, the governance side of the organization, to manage the security features within the organization so that they can maintain a certain level of security in the organization. You're not just the dude playing whack-a-mole fixing systems or applying patches or whatever. You might be a part of that team, but you're not the main guy doing that usually with GRC positions. If you're especially doing policy, you're more of the dude setting up the meetings with the whack-a-mole guys, the IT department or the help desk. You're a part of the team you have to do all these meetings with management and sometimes C-level execs and sometimes the smart guys, the engineers, the technical team. You got to bring all that together and figure out where are we as an organization with our security level. So just getting a certification is not going to be enough to do that work. Do you see what I'm saying? So you're going to have to know IT. In order to do a job like that, you have to have a basic understanding of IT, a basic understanding of security, and a basic understanding of how organizations work. So that's why I say probably a better place to start would either be from a help desk, some kind of technical role, not just help desk. It could be network engineer. It could be firewall guys. You need exposure to the technical side and the organization. If you are that, then GRC will be a smooth transition for you if you know what to put on your resume. If you're coming from college, the reason why I mentioned college is because especially if you're doing information systems or information technology or something, your degree is focused on writing, communicating, right? Doing, like, you have to learn to communicate, work in a team, and organizational structures. So when you get in the environment, you're like, okay, got it. And then you have to also do some technical stuff. So you're going to school to learn all those things, and then you can then apply it. So they'll do internships with you, they'll do apprenticeships with you, that kind of thing. So that's probably a better transition than just a certification. Are there certifications that help you? Yeah, sure. But they're looking for somebody to know all those things, or at least a little bit of all those things. It's probably better to start in IT department, in my opinion. Like a help desk department. Got a job as a SOC analyst for a regional bank. How does career position seem? How does the career progression seem from starting? Thoughts on tech sales? Oh, that's a whole different. Okay, so he's got a job at a SOC analyst position, and then I guess you're wondering from your SOC analyst position at a bank, where do you go from here? Like, how can you? What other ways can you progress and go upward momentum? Understand the organization. Exactly. Okay. Yeah. Understand the organizational structure. I know that seems obvious, but a lot of people in technical roles, your mind gets stuck in like you kind of got blinders on. You're just doing your piece. You're not worrying about everything else. Well, if you expand your horizons a little bit and look at the how the organization works, what you'll start to see is ways that you can get into management, ways that you can get into other positions that pay better. And if they're worth it. One of the ones that probably will be offered to you first would be if you master your role in SOC analyst position, they'll offer you like a if it's a large environment or they're growing or something, they'll offer you like a supervisor role. They won't offer sometimes they won't give you more money for it, but it's the reason why you should take it if you're trying to progress is eventually that supervisor role would could open the door to a management type position. So that's one way you can progress. From a SOC analyst, a couple other ways you can go is a policy person. If you wanted to do that route, you'd have to understand the framework that the bank is using, whatever that, whether it be Sarbanes-Oxley or PCI DSS. If you know that stuff, you can go the policy route, which pays pretty good. And if they don't pay good there, they'll pay some good somewhere else. So you got the management route, which you're going to go through a supervisor role, more work, same money until they're like, this guy's a good supervisor. We trust this guy, and then let's go ahead and offer them this management role, or offer them more money or whatever. And then you've got the policy. If you start learning the banks, how the bank does business from a standards perspective, which, like I said, pays more. What other things could you do? From SOC analyst, if you know specific tools, as a SOC analyst, actually, I was a SOC analyst. I was what we call the cybersecurity analyst. And one of the things I did to level up is I learned one of the tools really well. So I was we used several different tools. We had an IPS IDS system. We had a intrusion detection systems. We had host-based firewalls. We had servers we had to use, and then we had a SIEM system, which is a security information and event manager. That was our main tool. There were other tools like forensics and stuff like that, but the main tools we used was the SIEM system and IPS IDS. And if you got really good at one of those, they would allow you to be a like Splunk, exactly. They would, if you got really good at it, they would allow you. They had this other couple roles. One was where you would just do content creation, which means like you would create like an algorithm to find certain anomalies in the data. You could create like we were using ArcSight, so Splunk is way better. But you know what I'm talking about. You would be the person creating the content packages that would help the team to analyze the data. And then they had another one where we had engineers who would literally setting the system up from scratch. And so that they moved me from a SOC analyst to an engineer, where that's all I did, and I got paid more. Um, because I don't know why I was paid more, and I also didn't have to do shift work sometimes. So that was a level up. Uh, so there's a couple different ways you can level up. You can be an engineer working on the specific devices if you get really good at it, where you're either creating content for them or just building the system from scratch, or when the system goes down, you got to go in and fix it or whatever. You can do management and you can do policies. So those are a few different ways you can go. Let me see here. And I think that's it, guys. I'm about to be out of here. I'm going to answer a few more questions from YouTube. Larry says, any suggestions of good resources of study for CISSP, Udemy, LinkedIn courses, etc. CISSP, my first suggestion would, of course, be the books. You can get a good $40 book with a bunch of questions on the back of it. That's gonna be a great source. Yeah, Udemy, Coursera, or one of those are really good. YouTube has some great resources. Um, there used to be one called CC Cure, but I don't know if they still use. That's one of the ones that I was using before. I don't know if it's the same thing going on here. Okay, let me see. CC Cure. I don't know if it's paid. When I was doing it, it was free. They've got these sites that have just a bunch of quizzes that they put together. And I don't know how legit it is anymore, so I don't even know if I should promote it. Let me just take a look at it real quick. Yeah, I don't know if this is any good anymore. But what you could do, Larry, is use ChatGPT. ChatGPT is a great place to get some questions going for you. Let me see if I can. Maybe on the next call, I'll do a demonstration of what I mean. ChatGPT is a really good source. ChatGPT, and the other one is called Claude 3. I'm trying to log into my system, and I don't have my other computer, so I might have to just do it next week. Okay, so places you can, first of all, books. Then you got YouTube, you got Udemy, you got Coursera, right? You've got the other one I would say is large language models. The reason why is because you can make your own test with it. What you can do is, and it's worth your money. It's worth your time and money to go ahead and try it. But you could create a test. All right, thank you. Appreciate it. You could create a test. You could create a test where it will ask you all these questions that look like questions that would appear on an ISC2 squared site. Test. And then you could do Security Plus that way. You could do CCNA that way. You can do all of them. And if you're doing CCNA, nowadays they do like a virtual environment. You can even do a virtual environment directly on those large language models. So yeah, those are some of the places that I would use. And maybe next week I'll just do a demonstration. Maybe that's the thing I could use. Get everything set up and then give you some examples of what you could do with a large language model with the testing. It's mind blowing actually. It blew my mind the first time I did it. I was like, this is this is amazing. But that's it, guys. Thank you guys for following me. I appreciate everybody. Thanks Larry for the $20, man. That's what you guys chiming in and coming in here every week is what makes me keep doing these. That's it, guys. I'm out of here. I will talk to you guys next week. And I think maybe next week what I'll do is a demonstration. Maybe I'll set that up and do a demonstration of how you can use a large language model to do testing, to prepare for an IT certification. That might be something that you guys want to see. All right, guys, take it easy. Peace. You do all that. The hardest part is getting the job. Looks like you got a Linux shirt on. Yep. All right, guys, I'm out. Oh, man. Oh, shit. I gotta figure out how to. Oh, yeah, there he goes. Took a shit in here. Fuck this cat, man. Hey, Tom, I'm gonna take a break before I go to. I've got to go set up that camera, but I'm gonna take a break first. I don't know, before it gets dark. You can figure it if you want. I'm not going right now.
Baby, baby, can you take this? You keep leaving your coat here. All the stuff just ran upstairs.